everybody, and happy Monday, happy Motivation Monday. And if it's a holiday for you, then I hope you are enjoying the day, getting some rest or doing whatever it is you want to be doing with your day off. And I'm glad that that includes spending some time here with me and with us on Make It Make Sense. Our pledge to you here is that we are going to bring you fact-driven, data-driven information on topics that matter the most to our community, to our country, to our globe, and that where there is commentary, that commentary is based on facts and data, and that we're going to tell you the truth. So we're hoping that you can consider this a space where you can gain clarity, gain information, gain context, and just get the info you need to move further and live a better life. With that spirit in mind, we had a spectacular guest on Thursday who is back with us today, Dr. Thema Bryant-Davis. She is a psychologist. She is an expert in the field of mental health, and she is going to just talk to us further about trauma and coping and healing. So I am going to bring her on in.
Hello.
Greetings.
Greetings. So good to be with you. Thanks for having me on again. I know our time got short the first time.
Well, thank you so much. We were thankful and grateful for what we had then and just are doubly blessed now that you are back. And I hope you had a great weekend since then. And thank you everybody who's joining. I see all the wonderful comments and the hearts going up for Dr. Thema. And I really just wanted to pick up where we left off because you explained to us what trauma is. And for everyone who missed Thursday, the entire interview, the show is in my feed. It's in my feed here on Instagram. It's in my feed on Facebook. And in a couple of days, it'll be in my feed on YouTube. So you can find it everywhere. And I have been posting a couple of little clips where Dr. Thema describes to us what trauma is. And I want to make sure that I'm being a good student.
Beautiful. A+.
and get my notes together because, you know, this is something that we're all dealing with, Dr. Thema. And you explained that a medical pandemic is a trauma. And so if we're feeling these feelings, then it makes sense. But starting there, I'm wondering, not just for ourselves, but for others, how can we identify when someone is experiencing trauma and maybe they haven't identified it themselves, and what do we do about that?
Yes, such an important point for us to really be a community, for us to be relational, for us to be sensitive and tuned in to the realities of the lives of our friends, our families, and our colleagues, because as you have mentioned, one, sometimes people don't share what they're going through, and two, sometimes they're not really aware fully of the impact. And so some warning signs that the people you care about are going through it or being affected by the challenges of their lives, whether it be the pandemic or other challenges. One area of effect that can show up is in their emotions. And so people may become depressed, and depressed is more than a few days, it's a few weeks. But some of our depression shows up as irritability. So we often say a person has a bad attitude. And we usually are not compassionate toward people with a bad attitude, but often underneath the irritability is the despair. Along with that, sometimes people are angry. And some of us, depending on how we were raised, may be more comfortable expressing our anger than our sadness. Some people associate sadness with weakness. And so the way it shows up is them being combative, being argumentative. And then some of us are affected in terms of our anxiety. And so feeling worried, feeling stressed, difficulty sleeping. And it can show up also in our bodies. This is an important one. People of color often show their distress physically. And so we call that a somatic complaint. So there may not be a medical issue, but it is more your migraines, your nausea, your backache, your body ache. All of those things can be telling a story about what your heart is carrying. And so we want to be mindful of that. It can affect our relationships. Some people become more clingy and constantly need reassurance, and some people begin to isolate themselves. So the friends you haven't heard from for a while. And a part of this discourse has happened on social media, where at first people were saying, if they're your real friends, you would have heard from them. And then people kind of were flipping that conversation and saying, we're in a pandemic. So people are carrying a lot, and we want to have patience and have compassion, because just because you carry it by being on the phone all the time, it may not be the way that other person gets through it. And so we want to be really mindful and tender with ourselves and be gentle with each other.
So
And I
once
want to
we,
also say, I'm sorry, to also note those effects in our children, because I think sometimes people are they overlook the mental health of kids, and kids are being affected by all of this as well. So we want to be sensitive to their needs.
right, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I have teens,
Mm-hmm.
and will tell you, because they are outgoing, friend focused, activity driven little people, and the time that we had to spend where they were doing every single thing on the computer,
Yeah.
just nightmarish. I
Right.
mean, so much more so for them than
Mm-hmm.
for me. And we are
Mm-hmm.
still seeing the effects of that,
Right.
which brings me to my next question. So if we identify trauma,
Mm-hmm.
whether ourselves, a family member, our child,
Mm-hmm.
what people were asking me, one of the questions they asked me, and I did give them some sources, but I would like for you to, where can they go to find help?
Yes. So there are several mental health directories, and the gift of them for those who are in the US is that they are national. So when you go on these different directories, you put in either your zip code or your state, and you will see a list of providers. And so there is APAlocator.com. So APA stands for American Psychological Association. There's also inclusivetherapist.com. There's melaninmentalhealth.com. There's therapyforblackgirls.com, and they're also on Instagram. And they have a podcast as well. Now, I should say, even though it's called Therapy for Black Girls, it's just predominantly Black women therapists. And so whether you are a Black woman, a Black man, Black non-binary person, you can use that site. There also is Latinx therapy for our Latino community. And so there are many, many spaces. What I would say to you is get in your mind, like kind of what is your presenting problem? What is the major thing you want to work on? And most of them are going to list their area of expertise. So you want to connect with someone who has expertise in whatever your issue is. If you have an eating disorder and that's not a part of their expertise, you will be better served by someone who specializes in that. If you're dealing with addictions, you want someone who has a specialty in that. And then I would also say, from my vantage point, if you have an actual mental illness, a disorder, you want to work with a licensed professional. And I am all for pastoral care. I'm all for life coaches. If you are working through kind of general life decision making. But if we're talking about major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety, PTSD, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, you want to work with someone who has been trained in that specifically. And I would say be willing to shop around. So if you meet with one person and you don't like them, to not dismiss it and say therapy isn't for me. You just say that therapist wasn't for me. Because while we all go through training, we also bring ourselves to the table. So what you're getting is not just what they read, but kind of their personality, their style.
Yeah.
And if that style doesn't match for you, then that was just one session. You don't have to go back unless you're mandated by the courts. And then you can go and find someone else. If you are from a marginalized community, it's important that the therapists, whether they are part of that community or not, are sensitive to those issues. And so asking them about, what is your understanding about how this aspect of my identity and the realities of oppression may affect my mental health? And if they can't answer that question, that's very revealing, because people who handle your care should be able to see you fully.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to redirect for a minute. This was a question that I had, but I see something in the chat that I would like to address, because someone who's in the chat says that they've been having fleeting thoughts of suicide. And we have been seeing those numbers increase, and we've seen some obviously high profile situations that none of us could miss. But we've been seeing it also in our own communities. Can you please talk to her and to us about what to do when we're in that position?
Yes. I want to thank you first for your courage, because it means a lot to say it. First, to acknowledge it to yourself, and then to write it on the screen or to say it out loud, because an important part of our healing is truth telling. And when we're in the place where it is a fleeting thought, it is helpful to know it so that you can take that as like an alarm that's ringing. So there's an internal alarm I'm aware of. And so it is very important for me to try to get the support and the help that I am worthy of, even if I don't feel like I am deserving. And when we are in that space, it's important to also know that a lot of people don't share when they're in that challenge. And so you might feel like you're the only one. And I want you to know you are not the only one, whether there are those here who have experienced that now or in their past, or has a loved one who has been there. So you are definitely not alone. Often we are in such a place of fatigue. And what that also is like a hopelessness of wondering, can it ever get any better than this? And that is the important role of the mental health professional, to help us to stretch what we would call a foreshortened sense of future. So a foreshortened sense of future is, I cannot picture myself beyond this moment, right? And so when I'm in that place of hopelessness, it just feels like, I'm too tired to keep fighting. And so what you need and what you deserve are people who will jump in the fight with you when you have been carrying it so much by yourself. And it also helps in terms of perspective taking, because when we're in that place, depression is a liar. And depression will cloud everything. Anything good that's happened in your life, anything that could be a point of gratitude, it will overshadow it and make you feel like everything is a disaster. Everything is terrible. There is nothing good about me. These are the lies depression tells you. And so that can be a gift of community. Some people who will whisper truth in your ear in those seasons of our lives when we forget who we are. And, when life shows up in various ways, and it can also be a genetic predisposition, but our mind is actually working against us. And so we need some spaces for truth. So I would encourage you and others to make the phone call or to look online. Now they have so many options, even in the virtual space. You don't even have to drive to therapy. And get that support. Be willing to tell people who respond with compassion. And then I would also request that you begin to make a plan for tomorrow. See, 5 years from now or 10 years from now, that can feel too far and too heavy. So something I can look forward to later today. Something I can look forward to later this week. Because sometimes we're sitting suffering and hoping people will check on us. But if you make that call and tell someone, I really need to see somebody for lunch this week, are you free? Right? Or, I just want to go walking, for those who prefer to be outdoors during these times, or is there any day this week you could go walking with me? And so I know when you're in that heavy place, it's hard to think about taking the initiative. But I encourage you to do that, because you are worthy. You are worthy and deserving, and there's purpose for your life.
Amen. Amen. Depression is a liar really stuck out for me. I don't know if that rings so true. I don't know that I've heard that before, but it absolutely is. But you know what, Dr. Thema, I would love for you to address I woke up in my right mind church that is willing to admit at something wrong with everything from their tooth to their arm, to their heart, to their pinky toe,
Mm-hmm.
but insist that between them and Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
there's no need of therapy. And we are still, especially in the Black community, suffering from these stigmas. How can, I don't know the right question. I don't know whether it's that we need to be trying to move each other forward, or if we're kind of like each one reach our own one on this, because I know we can have Jesus and therapy.
Yes,
And that
yes.
most of us need Jesus through therapy. Like,
Right.
you need the therapy to sometimes attach to spirit even.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
please help us.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for raising that, that our faith is not, it is a false theology. Theology is the study of God. So it's a false theology, or it is poor teaching that tells us that if we love God, every day will be sunshine. That if we love God, you'll be peaceful and joyful every day and you won't have any problems. All of that is a lie. And regardless of your religious orientation, it's not sound doctrine. It's not sound teaching, meaning if you follow the Bible, if you follow any other text, you will see in there, whenever you see narratives of human beings, you see narratives of despair. Right? So even the disciples had despair. For those who are Christian, it's important to know that Jesus experienced despair. Great prophets experienced despair, experienced anxiety, and they write about it and they include it in the sacred text. And so it is false teaching that tells you that you can't say that. I've heard people say things like, don't say you're depressed. That's claiming it. Don't claim it. It's like, if I don't say that I have heart disease, does that make the heart disease go away? If I say I don't have a cavity, does the cavity disappear? So we have to stop it is out of our own ignorance. Which is why I have grace on one hand when I hear people saying this, because often they're repeating what they were told. And at the same time, I feel an urgency about it, and glad you raised the question, because it's harmful. You have people sitting in pews that are suffering because you said a 2-minute prayer for them, and that was supposed to be the end of it. I had a client who literally, her pastor told her, I already prayed for you, so you don't need to go to therapy. And these kinds of messages that are shaming are keeping people from getting the care they deserve. And so it is not an either or. It's not, am I a person of faith, or am I a person who can get support? And God can show up in all kinds of ways, including through human beings. And so receive the blessing of that. And we say, I want wholeness by any means necessary, and by every means necessary. And so it's holistic, mind, body, spirit. So people who are committed to exercise, and they say, that really helps their mental health. Yes, exercise is important, and therapy is important too, and prayer, meditation can be important too. So let none of us feel like we're one tool. And I say that even in the mental health arena, for us not to get arrogant and think that we have a monopoly on only the way we do it is helpful. And so for us to use all of the different gifts and opportunities that are available for our wellness, and don't let anybody else dictate to you your process. They're not carrying the weight that you're carrying, and they have not lived your life. So if journaling alone helps them, bless them, let them go journal. If for you getting some sessions helps you, then go get you some sessions and let them be silent.
And I even saw, I can't remember what I was watching you speak about, but you were talking about in terms of picking a healthy church home or place of worship. There are churches that are equipped with the information you need if you're going through a mental health challenge, and consider it part of ministry.
Absolutely. And as you're mentioning churches, I'm seeing my brother is here and giving us both a shout out, Pastor Jamal from New Birth Missionary Baptist Church.
Bless you.
So glad. Yeah,
Love
so
you.
glad that he's here. And I have to give a shout out specifically because It was at my brother's church in Baltimore, Maryland, his prior church, Empowerment Temple, which was the first church where I ever saw a pastor give an altar call. And for those who are not from the faith community, a special prayer for people who are survivors of sexual trauma. I had never seen that before. And in every one of our churches, our temples, our mosques, our kingdom halls, there are survivors, and we don't often speak to their reality. I know Reverend Michael Walren in New York, his church also has a counseling center with trained mental health professionals, and there are others who are coming alongside and wanting to be really relevant to address the needs of the community. And so it's important. I would say kind of check your heart when you're in, if you are desiring to be a part of a faith community, go there or join or check it out online and see how you feel when you're there and see how you feel when you leave there. Because if it's an assault on your spirit, if you leave more drained than when you came, all right, that doesn't mean that you're not growing. But if it really is just a place of shame and condemnation, that's not the place for you to flourish.
Ooh, that was a mouthful. Lordy, Lord. And I want to say God bless you to Pastor Bryant too. We go the way of the way back. And our children are friends now, which is
beautiful.
So thank you for being here with us, Dr. Bryant, for all the work that you do. I only have a couple more minutes, so I want to ask this one question because it's stumping me, and I'm hoping that it's stumping other people too. As you said, we're in the pandemic that has just been shifting and changing. You were saying in our last interview, the way that we dealt with it at the beginning might not be the way that we need to deal with it now. We have to figure out what feeds us. But can you help us figure out what to do about this uncertainty? Because from my perspective, things that we counted on just being sure, like the kids are going to go to school this week. Right. We're able to go to the park. Grocery stores open, basics are things of the past, and then it's mask or no mask, 2 vaccines, 3, all the changing, and it seems like we're gonna be here a minute with the nobody has it quite figured out of it. How do we get our balance day to day in that?
Yes. So I have a verse to add to the Beatitudes. And the verse that I would like to add, I would like to offer for submission for Matthew 5 is blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be stressed out. Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be stressed out. When we are rigid, when we are controlling, it is a recipe for any little thing, and even not even little thing, big things to ruin your day. And so it gets to a place of trusting the larger process, meaning that this day might not go exactly as I mapped out. This month, for some people, this year, these 2 years, your birthday, your anniversary, the trip that you planned, all of those things can get turned upside down. And we can then conclude to ourselves, I don't know the details of what this year will look like, but I am trusting in the unfolding of time that it will be well for me. I'm trusting that. And so some can call it a faith walk. We can talk about it as hope. We can talk about it as being in a place of freedom, right? That here's the truth, that the reality is we were never in control of it all, right? We felt like we were. We felt like if I do this, this will happen. If I do this, this will happen. But we don't get to control other people. That's one of our first lessons. We can't dictate how other people respond. We cannot control the weather or the atmosphere, although there are some things we could do as it relates to global warming. But I will do what I can with what I have. And I'm going to just trust that the rest is going to work itself out. And one of the moments that really helped me, I called my mother, this is now years ago, and I was just in this place of distress and I was upset, something hadn't worked out. And my mother said, and she has a very classic voice, so I'm going to do her voice. She said, Thema, your destiny is greater than your circumstance. Your destiny is greater than your circumstance. And I hold on to that, right? That the circumstance may come and go, stuff may blow up, it's COVID, it's this, it's that, this one doesn't like me, stress at my job, all of this. You said children having all kinds of issues. And I recognize that this circumstance, this momentary circumstance, this seasonal circumstance is not the sum total of my identity nor my possibility. And so get a vision for yourself that is beyond what happens on today.
Amen. Amen. Wow, we got so many nuggets in here. I don't even know where to begin. Everybody on here, I know you're going to watch this again and again after I post it. I was taking some notes and I had to stop. So I will go back and do my note taking again. Just woman of God, doctor, thank you. Thank you.
And I have to say, one, I appreciate your support. And two, for those who weren't with us last week, I want you all to pre-order the book, Homecoming. It's available at Target, online, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, independent booksellers. And it's important that we support independent bookstores. For anyone who's joining us from outside of the country, bookdepository.com delivers to other countries as well. Please pre-order today. It will bless me. And then when you receive the book, it will bless you.
Amen. Thank you so much. Homecoming. Get it, everybody. I'm pre-ordering my copy today. Thank you, Dr. Thema, so much.
Thank you for having me. You all take care.
Have a great day. So guys, thank you so much for joining once again. I don't even know where to begin on the measure of the blessing that we just received. I know that it's going to save lives. And what you can do, if it blessed you, is please, please share it. I am going to post before the end of the day. My folks will post this here on my Instagram feed. It'll be posted on Facebook on my public page, facebook.com/I am Monique Pressley. And then, as I said, it'll be on YouTube a little later in the week. We're doing some configuring there so that you can access these on my YouTube page. So please, please share far and wide. This is the information we need during the time that we are in. And I believe it's my purpose and obligation to bring it to you. And I pray that it is a blessing to you. If you are enjoying the content that you're receiving here on Make It Make Sense, please support what we're doing. You can go to the link tree in my bio for different ways that you can support, whether you go to Patreon or you support us through a one-time donation through business, PayPal, or Cash App. It's all at the link tree in my bio. We will be here every weekday, Monday through Friday at noon. We've got a great show planned for you tomorrow. So I hope I will see you then. Blessings to you all. Have a great day.